And we welcome you into another episode of the Pinstriped Prospects Podcast, on to episode number 65. And as I've discovered, you guys like it when we reference our episode numbers to a current or former Yankee. So, wave hi to Domingo German for me. Here in New York, I'm Alex Zeller. You're listening to this podcast on SoundCloud, available as well on iTunes, Google Play, and TuneIn. Perhaps you're watching this podcast in high definition, available as well on our YouTube and Facebook pages, and maybe, just maybe, you're catching a sneak peek of this podcast on our Instagram page as well. None of this possible, of course, without our good friends over at Velocity Wings. However way you've chosen to digest our podcast here today, thank you so very much for making us a part of your weekly programming. An exciting show this week as we provide you all the information you need and want from the New York Yankees farm system. You'll get stats, analysis, player interviews. You'll even hear from one of our beat writers and so much more as we continue to provide you unparalleled coverage of the New York Yankees minor league system. So let's jump on in. What's the future for the New York Yankees? It's a question posed to me a lot on social media, and I hope you'll join me on Twitter. You can follow me, of course, at Alex Zeller. Feel free to cheer or heckle me at your discretion, perhaps like some. You want to make fun of my hair for reasons unbeknownst to me. It's just a standard haircut. But on this week's episode, we're going to try to answer some of those questions about what that future looks like. Our very own Robert Pimpsner will join me in a segment later on. And believe me, while he'll heckle me as well, we'll also talk about the international free agency class and why that is so important to the New York Yankees' success currently and in the future as well. But we're going to get to that later. We'll start this show up in Double A, where the phrase, "what's old is new again," comes to my mind. There's a shortstop by the name of Kyle Holder, playing currently for the Trenton Thunder, who's an old school shortstop surviving in a new school kind of game. Manny Machado and Trevor Story dominate the discussion on shortstops in today's game, with all the home runs being hit in that position. But back in my day, shortstops were a defensive first kind of player, and Kyle Holder plays it the same way. Our very own Austin Petolillo gets to watch Holder every day in Double A as he helps Matt Cardos cover the Trenton Thunder beat for us here at pinstripeprospects.com. Austin describes to us in a feature article on the site an old school looking player. Holder leaves all the fancy compression sleeves, wristbands, and tape at home. Dons the old socks up to the knees in what is my favorite look a baseball player could have. Of modern gear, you'll see the shortstop wear batting gloves and an elbow guard, but that's it. Holder's style of play can be described in much the same way, old school, as he plays a defensive first type of shortstop. In a game dominated by advanced hitting stats, Holder is seen as a defensive general in the middle infield for the Trenton Thunder, as many shortstops in the past have done, where his defensive game, as Austin describes, outweighs his offensive game. The New York Yankees drafted Kyle Holder out of the University of San Diego in the first round, 30th overall, back in the 2015 draft. In the beginning of the year, we ranked Holder in the top 75 of Yankees prospects, where he was number 19. He's gotten high praise in the organization, specifically from Trenton Thunder manager Jay Bell, who told reporters that defensively, Holder's one of the best in the organization as shortstop or anywhere else in the infield. Now that's some high praise. Austin Petolillo reminds us that Bell earned a Golden Glove back in 1993 when he played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Injury plagued Holder this year. A stress fracture in his back suffered during spring training, which sidelined Holder to start the year. In Trenton this season, Holder has had 76 at-bats, where he's hitting .303 with 5 RBIs. He's perfect as far as his fielding percentage this season goes, but Holder is currently back on the DL after he suffered concussion-like symptoms in a game against Hartford where there was an awkward collision at second base. Before the injury, though, our very own Austin Petolillo got to speak with the shortstop about his game and his development right now in the Yankees farm system. Austin, take it away.
First time in Double A, how have you been enjoying it?
I love it. Getting the chance to come up and play with these guys and just be part of the teams. It's a great feeling.
Now you were a first round draft pick. Do you kind of feel any pressure being a first round pick?
No, I've been in the game now for almost 5 years. I'd say my first half season, Staten, I felt a little pressure and didn't really know what to expect, and I've kind of gotten past that and just figured out how to just go out there and play the game.
It's kind of just going through the motions, just making little baseball. So, kind of talk to me about your college days. You played at San Diego.
Yeah.
How did that help you to get to this point?
I mean, yeah, I was able to play in my hometown and play for a great coaching staff and a great facility, and I learned a lot in college. Definitely helped me out in my first couple years of pro ball, and just being in pro ball every day and getting used to how things are done and playing on a daily basis obviously helps you out too.
You're more known as a defensive shortstop than any of your offense. Is that something you've always kind of took pride in? Being a defensive shortstop.
Yeah, I think the defense for me always came a little bit easier than offense. Kind of trying to turn the page on that and not focus so much on me being a defensive first guy. I feel confident at the plate, and I feel like I can do damage at the plate, and I've just been working hard to try to be as consistent as possible. Just go out and help my team in whatever way I can. So I think each year I've developed as a hitter and kind of figured out what kind of hitter I am, and now it's just kind of going out and doing my best to perform and help the team win.
Is there anything specific you're trying to work on when you're at the plate?
Just hit the ball hard, being as consistent with my approach and not trying to do too much, and just kind of do whatever the team needs in whatever certain situation I'm in, but kind of just put myself in the best position to make hard contact consistently.
What was the injury you were coming back from this year?
I had a little problem with my back in spring training. And
like what the specific?
Yeah, it came back as just a little stress fracture.
Okay.
But that's all healed now, and I'm just ready to keep on playing.
What was the rehab like for that?
It was kind of long. Anytime you're sidelined and not being able to play, and you have to just watch baseball every day is a little tough. But I'm glad the rehab went well, and I'm just happy I'm healthy and back playing.
You have a manager who's won a few Gold Gloves in the majors, at shortstop, your position. Have you kind of try to get any tips from him?
Yeah. I played for Jay last year in the Florida State League all year, and got to play with him in the Arizona Fall League, and me and him have a really strong relationship, and I can't thank him and look up to him more than I already do. He's a role model for me, and just that mentor that kind of gets me through the game when things are tough. Has really good managing techniques and managing skills that not a lot of people have. He's definitely a great mentor to have, and he's been a huge help in my career so far.
Now, you said you're from San Diego. What's it like being on the other side of the country? Just playing baseball. Do you ever get a little homesick sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a really, really supportive family that comes out and sees me a couple times throughout the year. But it was tough my first year, like I said, but I've been doing this for so long now that I'm just kind of used to being away and things like that.
Aside from your defense, is there any other aspect of your game that you kind of rate highly?
I don't know. I'm trying to work to be the best well-rounded baseball player out there. Obviously, I think everyone would say that, but I'm just honestly just try to go out and do whatever I can to help the team win. If that's a bunt, a hit and run, going to first and third on a base hit to the outfield, making a diving play to save a run, things like that. I'm just trying to become as well-rounded as possible.
All right, thanks, Austin, for all your hard work this week. But to finish up the show, we're going to head over to Single A short season and take a look at the Staten Island Yankees, where beat writer and founder of PinstripeProspects.com, Robert Pimpsner, joined us on Thursday night to heckle me, for starters, but also to talk about this truly historic team that you can see right now in Staten Island, and finishes up with a great baseball story. Hope you enjoy. And we're being joined now by our founder here at PinstripeProspects.com. He's the guy to complain to when it comes to me, farm reports, podcasts, my hairstyle, what have you. Robert Pimpsner of the Staten Island Yankees. He's our beat writer down there as well, joining us. Rob, thanks for coming in.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be on the podcast again, and definitely insult you and your hairstyle.
What is wrong? What is with the hairstyle that people don't like? That's my first question.
It's yours.
Well, if you guys don't know, Rob and I have known each other for quite a couple years, even before my days since joining the Pinstriped Prospects. But what we haven't seen before is just how good the pitching's been in Staten Island. What is it, Rob? What are they eating for breakfast that I can eat in order to be like them, really?
They are eating their Wheaties.
Apparently, but This is almost a historic team that we're seeing down in Staten Island. I'm curious about what those stats might be.
Well, it's definitely a very historic team. Right now, the team is the pitching staff, I would say, not so much the hitters, unfortunately. The pitching staff is honestly one of the best pitching staffs the Staten Island Yankees have ever had in their history. And if they continue this pace they're on now, they will set a new record for team ERA. And that team ERA, which at this moment on Thursday night is 2.41, and it's top in the New York Penn League for the season, as well as fourth all-time in New York Penn League history.
Who is better?
And the only three teams that were better were the 1985 Oneonta Yankees, the 1986 Oneonta Yankees, and the 2001 Brooklyn Cyclones.
So Yankees affiliates for the most part, the Brooklyn Cyclones obviously being with the New York Mets.
Yeah, and if you go back and look at the history, there's 56 teams in Penn League history that have a sub-3 ERA, and 16 of those are Yankees affiliates. So that's 29% of teams in New York Penn League history with sub-3 ERAs were New York Yankees affiliates, whether that be Oneonta or Staten Island. Staten Island, of course, had sub-3 ERAs 7 or 8 times throughout their history already. So they are just really known throughout the team's history, throughout the organizational history in the New York Penn League, as just a great pitching organization.
Since you're our resident historian on the Staten Island Yankees, how long have they been an affiliate?
Well, this is Staten Island's 20th season. You know, their first
7
year,
out of those.
So 7 out of those 20 years already, not including this year. I think this year would be 8.
8.
That's 8 out of 20 seasons they had a sub-3 ERA.
Think about that for a sec. That's a crazy amount of numbers just looking at history in general. Have the Yankees overall just been that good at pitching prospects? Is that just their thing?
Yeah, historically, the Yankees organization has been one that's always been pitching heavy. You know, if you look back the last 20 years or so, a lot of guys were on the top prospect lists were pitchers, and there was just so many guys out there throughout the Yankees' history that were pitchers coming up and went on to join other organizations. If you want a good example of that, I'll go back to that 1985 Oneonta Yankees team, and one of the standouts on that team was a young 19-year-old Al Leiter. And
no
of
big
course,
deal.
Yeah, Al Leiter, we had 2 or 3 seasons with the Yankees before moving on to other teams, and he's really known for his time with the New York Mets.
He had quite the major league career.
Yes, he did. He was only 19 in that 1985 year, and he had 6 starts for the Oneonta Yankees that year in the Damaski Park up by Cooperstown, New York, in Oneonta. He had 2.37 ERA back then, with 3 wins and 2 losses. That was quite a bit of time ago. But like I said, even back then, a lot of these guys, even though if they don't come up with the Yankees, they'll come up with someplace else and make a mark. We've seen that with guys like Ian Kennedy, who didn't make it in New York, obviously, but had a successful career elsewhere. Other guys, if I want to really stretch, say Jeff Karstens. I don't know how you remember him with the Pirates. He had a really good career with the Pirates. He was a Yankees minor leaguer that came up. There's a lot of guys out there. Mark Melanson, Michael Dunn, and those are 2 guys offhand that actually played with the Staten Island Yankees and made their mark. So there's a lot of guys out there that just pitching prospects that come up to the Yankee system. The Yankees are just very good at developing pitchers.
Is there anyone on the Staten Island Yankees team that excites you right now? I'm not saying tell me who the future Al Leiter is. I'm sure that'll be a Twitter question at some point. But who out there that's playing this year excites you?
There's quite a bit there's a couple of guys, of course,
You can't choose one,
have
right?
to touch. You
With
can't
a team
choose.
ERA like this, I mean, everyone's looking like a stud out there.
Oh, of course. We got the newest addition to the pitching rotation, which was Clark Schmidt. He's just recently joined Staten Island, had 2 starts for Staten Island, and has a 1.08 ERA in those 2 starts, striking out 10 batters in 8 1/3 innings. And he's been flashing a fastball that is like 93 to 95, with topping out at 97, and he's just putting really good innings together on his way back from Tommy John surgery. He's a good guy. And there's also Matt Sauer, who was the 2nd-round pick behind Schmidt last year. So we got the first 2 draft picks in the 2007, the first 2 Yankees draft picks, and it's from the 2017 draft on this team, pitching one right behind each other. It's Schmidt, then Sauer in that pitching rotation.
See, it's interesting. It's interesting to me because when you talk about the Staten Island Yankees, I hear sometimes someone goes, oh, it's a short season. But there's a lot of guys down there throwing 97 that are interesting to watch and see if they have a future with the Yankees.
Oh, yeah, this is where we get the first real test for a lot of these guys. They're really learning how to spot their fastballs, throw breaking balls, and mix in changeups at this level. And you'll see a lot of times this is where they separate themselves from the pack.
Well, he's Rob Pimpsner, founding member of PinstripeProspects.com and one of our beat writers down in Single A short season with the Staten Island Yankees. I'm Alex Zeller. You're listening to Pinstriped Prospects Podcast, episode number 65, presented, of course, by Velocity Wings. Thanks so much for joining us here and making us a part of your weekly program. Now, Rob, with the Yankees organization as stacked as it is, and we've seen it with corner infielders, we're talking about pitching now for our 2nd week in a row here on the Pinstripe Prospects Podcast. When Brian Cashman, general manager, of course, of the New York Yankees, had decisions to make as far as the trade deadline, the fact that a lot of this prospects core was kept together made me really excited. I thought it was a great move. I'm glad that they didn't sell the entire farm to get a rental like a Machado. I'm glad they didn't sell everybody to try to grab a Jacob deGrom that would have an unbelievable price tag if they'd even be able to acquire him from the New York Mets. Were you excited with the way this core is still kind of together in the farm system, or were you looking for outside help for the big club this year?
I was a mixture of both. I think when you look at this list of guys that are Rule 5 eligible this year, I think it's up to I think it's actually down now to about 75 names. Don't quote me on the exact number. But, we had a lot of...
I'm going to quote you for days after this, Rob, but go on.
Well, it's just a rough estimate doing quick math in my head. I don't remember the exact numbers offhand. But at one point, there was about 86 guys that were Rule 5 eligible this year. Yankees have done a really good job in moving some of those guys for extra depth, extra international free agent cash. That money has gone already to great use. They maxed out their international free agent pool already, and they signed a lot of great players to refill those prospect ranks. But when it comes down to it, the big-name guys, your Chance Adams and Justice Sheffield, are still with the organization. Chance Adams, of course, had that really solid Major League debut the other day.
He sure did.
And you couldn't...
too.
He stepped up. He showed that his struggles from earlier this season are behind him. And if you look at his numbers, it's true. He's a guy that missed his entire offseason regimen because he had surgery, so he couldn't start throwing until spring training. And in spring training, he was kind of wild. Beginning of the season, he was kind of wild and didn't have his velocity back up to where it was because he's, recovering from surgery, which no one knew about until the start of the season. And you got to give him a lot of credit for what he was able to put together. Sheffield, I think, is a guy that is on the cusp of being Major League ready, and he's a guy that I know the Yankees really want to make sure he is ready for that spot when he does come up. Because I think when he does come up, he's going to cement himself in that rotation, sort of like how Montgomery has. did before his injury. And I think Sheffield's going to be our second lefty, or in this case, first lefty in the rotation next year. And he's going to be a big part of this pitching staff moving forward. A guy they really build around in that rotation. With Severino number 1, get Sheffield in that number 2 spot, and that's just going to be phenomenal.
For sure, and when you take a look at trades, and Rob, I might have made this joke with you before, but my favorite player anywhere, and he's played on every Major League Baseball team, is cash considerations. And you don't see so many cash considerations anymore. You see international bonus pool money. We talked about this with Matt and with Ricky in the past, but I kind of want your take on this, since you get to see everything kind of from up high from your founder level here at PinstripeProspects.com. But is international free agency where it's at right now?
Oh, yeah. International free agency and the draft. You'll see a lot of teams now that didn't really take it seriously before are really taking both very seriously. And the Yankees themselves did not really take the draft seriously for many, many years. And that kind of turned around the last 5 years, 6 years. And you started to really see that pay off at the major league level.
Sure, and dividends.
Yeah. And the Yankees have always been really strong international players. They always figured, we're the Yankees, we can outspend everyone, even with international cash. Now that they kind of put the limits on the international free agents, they've had to figure out ways to compete. And a lot of that comes down to trading away guys that are Rule 5 eligible that really have no place in the organization for extra cash to spend during the international free agent period. And that's worked out because you get so many great prospects now in the international money.
There's one guy right now we just did a scouting report for, Rob, I want you to go more into it, that is one of those types of players.
You're speaking of Ronzi Contreras.
Yes, sir.
Who was an international free agent in 2016, if I remember correctly, out of the Dominican Republic. And he is probably one of my favorite prospects in this organization. I believe he is a top 10 prospect personally, and I think at the end of the season he will find himself within the top 10 prospects in the organization on almost every prospect list. He's a guy.
I'm sorry, Rob.
Yes.
Contreras is currently assigned to the Charleston River Dogs in Class A. He's a mid-rotation starter. His risk factor, my favorite thing of our scouting reports, extreme. A big fan of all these different scouting reports. You can catch that, of course, by navigating over to PinstripeProspects.com. All sorts of scouting reports and other articles to check out after the podcast, of course. But, Rob, going back, why is this guy maybe your favorite international free agency signing?
Two reasons. Oh, actually more than two, but I'll start off with two. One, I really like how he is on the mound. He has a really good demeanor. He doesn't let anything faze him. He has a poise on the mound that's really beyond his years. So that's something I think will take him very far. And also, he's just a really good person. I've had the unique ability to really judge how a player's makeup is just because during games, I'm not up in the press box. I'm down on the field in the dugout with the players every game. And I get to see a lot of stuff that a lot of others might not get to see or know what's going on. And he's a guy that 100% listens to his coaches, understands that, he's here to make a good life for himself, and he takes full advantage of it. He's not afraid to go out there and have fun. He's not afraid to go out there and attack hitters. He's got a fastball that's just been growing. When he was an amateur before he signed, that was a high 80s fastball. Now it's reaching into 98 miles an hour. Wow. So he's really putting it on there. His changeup is a work in progress, but it's still it's developing, and it has showed a lot of good potential in there to become a plus pitch. And he has a really good curveball. A lot of people might get confused that his curveball is a slider just because at times it will change movement. from a 10 to 5 to a 9 to 4 on the clock, but it's a pretty good pitch, 81 and 83 miles an hour, and he mixes that in really well, which is something for an 18-year-old kid. He's really advanced. And like I said,
usually someone that can make that kind of clock change on a changeup or a slider, you see that more from a guy that's 24 or 25, not someone that's 18.
Oh yeah. And I think, like I said, I think he has the future potential to be a real good pitcher for him. I think at least he's back-end rotation guy. I think he does have the potential to be a number 2 in a good rotation.
But Contreras is a good example, of what you can find in international free agency.
Yes, it's a very good example. Other good examples, if you go back up, look at the major league level, you have Gleyber Torres, who wasn't a Yankees international free agent. The Yankees wanted him, but he was an international free agent signed by the Cubs.
Right.
You got Luis Severino, who was an international free agent. There's just so many guys out there. And if you want to look at the Yankees' top prospect list, Estevan Florial, Albert Abreu was an international free agent, Luis Medina, Domingo Acevedo, Jonathan Loiziga at one point was an international free agent, not signed by the Yankees but signed by another team. Then you got guys like Tyro Estrada, Everson Pereira. There's a lot of these guys on there. Ezekiel Duran, Frazier Perez, Devi Garcia, Juan Ven, Luis Gil. You're going...
That's a lot of names.
It is. You look at the top 30, at least half of them are international free agents.
What's more important, international free agency or the draft then?
I don't think one's more important than the other.
About the same.
Yeah, they're not the same.
Well, I mean, like, in level of importance, are they about the same as how important it is in order to get guys both from the draft and in international free agency? Because everybody knows about the draft. Drafts are important.
It's equal. When it comes down to it, you need to be able to do both. You need to be able to scout both markets and plan to get the best player available from both markets. Because if you don't, you're not building your farm system up well.
In your estimation, have the Yankees done this balance well?
Oh, yes, I would agree. Especially in the last 6 years. I think they've really stepped up their game when it comes to drafting. And their international free agent scouting, their international scouting is second to none.
Well, he's Robert Pimpsner, founder of PinstripeProspects.com, as well as one of our beat writers down in Single-A short season with the Staten Island Yankees. But often, and as we spoke about it before, he gets kind of an interesting view being down in the dugout areas. And the reason why is you can see some of what he sees through his camera lens, as many of the photos that you see from Staten Island on our website come directly from Rob. So aside from being a website founder extraordinaire, a beat writer extraordinaire, he's a damn good photographer too. So definitely check out some of his work.
That's because I'm not afraid to get in front of the ball. Literally.
Listen, I've been hit by the ball in the past. There's a certain level of fear that you just don't seem to have.
Yes, and that comes into play when Chaparro hits me in the wrist with a foul ball, or I get hit in the ankle with a ball, or I get hit in other areas with a ball, which happens quite a bit.
In the past, for those that don't know, who's listening to us on iTunes or TuneIn, Google Play, anywhere you can get podcasts, I used to work for the Staten Island Yankees, and that's where I met Rob initially before I joined the Pinstriped Prospects. And I got hit with a foul ball on the first base side so hard that the trainer from the opposing team came out to see if I was okay. So it's dangerous down there for sure, and it's much appreciated. I certainly do, and everyone out there in radio land and internet radio land should really appreciate some of the photos that you can see on PinstripeProspects.com.
Oh, yeah. Were you there when I got hit in the ankle and my ankle blew up?
Yeah, I thought you were going to have to go home, and you played like the remainder of the game.
Yep.
I radioed like the paramedics. I was like, oh, he's done. He's done. That's what I thought. I was like, he's gonna be walking on crutches for the remainder of the season.
And I didn't.
You did. You came back every single game. Rob is a trooper. doesn't believe in the term day-to-day. He'll just play every game. If anyone can stay on the field, it's Robert Pimpsner. But let's get back in what we were discussing with the Staten Island Yankees. Let's get back. We're talking about this historic team, and upcoming next week is the NYPL All-Star Game. Who do you think is deserving from this team, Rob?
Plenty of guys that are deserving. We have the best ERA in the league 2 years in a row, and it's kind of a travesty that when the Penn League released their All-Stars, there is no Staten Island Yankee players listed on the All-Star team roster, which is kind of unheard of. This is the second year in a row that the league has decided not to name a Staten Island Yankee player to the All-Star team when they have the best ERA. I don't know how they could get away with that.
Where's the protest?
I don't know. I guess this is the problem when you have one guy making the decisions. It shouldn't be up to just one single person. But when it comes down to it, there's a lot of guys on this team that are deserving of an All-Star nod. We talked a little bit about a couple of them earlier. You guys talked about Nolan Martinez last week. It is not uncommon for guys to be named an All-Star even though they've been moved up. It happens in every league.
Right.
There's nothing uncommon about that. It happens in every league. It's just nature in minor league baseball. You can just still name the guy an All-Star. No power to it. There's nothing wrong with that.
And a guy like Nolan Martinez is really doing special things when he was in Staten Island.
Yeah. He definitely was deserving of an All-Star nod. But if you look at the guys that are still with Staten Island, you have Harold Cortijo, who's a guy that, in my opinion, is probably one of the most underrated players in this organization. I think he should be a lot more known than he is. There's a lot, say, sexier names out there, but I think he's a really great pitcher. He's 3-1 this year for Staten Island with a 2.27 ERA in 7 games, striking out 38 guys in 35 and 2/3 innings. He's a good 3-pitch pitcher. And why isn't he on the All-Star team? Why isn't he in consideration? And then if you go back a little bit more to like what I was saying before,
right?
Why aren't people talking about him more?
We are.
Yes, we are. We have a lot.
He was on the podcast.
Yes.
We had him. You heard from him in episodes prior. Go back on SoundCloud.com. You can catch all the prior episodes there as well. We're at least talking about Harold Cortijo, but I'm surprised he didn't get an All-Star nod. In fact, it kind of frustrates me.
I agree. He was well-deserving of one. Sean Semple is another guy. He's got 2.70 ERA in 8 games. Rodney Hutchinson, who's in 6 games, been pretty impressive, especially now that they're converting him into a starter. And he just pitched. He had 4 no-hit innings before allowing a run in the 5th inning, but he's been pitching really well. If you go into the bullpen, there's guys like Garrett Mundell and Brooks Kriske who are extremely good pitchers and well-deserving of an All-Star nod. Hell, Kriske is coming off of Tommy John surgery, and he's been damn impressive. He has a .98 ERA in 18 1/3 innings.
I don't care what level you're at.
Tommy John.
After Tommy John, too?
After Tommy John, yeah.
I don't care what level you're at. .98 after Tommy John surgery. That's damn impressive. That's the only thing I can say. I'm going to quote you on that one. But
it is damn impressive.
Is there any reason why these guys have been getting, I'm going to use the term snubbed because this is a podcast?
They are being snubbed.
Thank you.
It's the truth.
That's not a hot take either. You're looking at a team that's doing historic things. The 4th all-time best in low ERA, and no one gets an All-Star nod? No one. No one on the entire staff. I find that a little bit suspect.
It is very suspect. Look at a guy like Aaron McGarity. I'm sure Ricky has talked about Aaron McGarity before.
Yeah.
He hasn't allowed a run yet. He's made 8 relief appearances, struck out 10 guys in 8 1/3 innings. He hasn't allowed a run at all. He's a guy that I think deserves it.
who's pitching that's getting these nods? Did Jacob deGrom come down to play with the Brooklyn Cyclones or something? I didn't catch it. I mean, I know sometimes when you watch Mets games, it sometimes looks like some of these guys, the way their batting averages are, they belong back in the minors. But like, is there anyone on these other teams, all jokes aside, that's just that much better than what the Yankees are putting out there pitching wise?
Sadly, no. You know, if you look,
where are these all-star nods coming from, and who makes these decisions, and why are we looking at it like this? Is there like a thing going on with that, or like what's happening with that?
Well, the decision on who makes the all-star team is made by the league president.
Okay.
And it's pretty much his way or the highway. So
he won't like me after this podcast.
And if a player development office doesn't want their guys playing, he just wouldn't give them a nod.
Oh, so an organization might be like, I like this guy, I don't want them playing.
Yeah, you know, there's guys that, you know, I was like, all right, you want this guy playing, but he being promoted to the next level. So you wouldn't even name him.
See, that's interesting to me. It's because, like, other leagues, like, even if a guy gets promoted, they at least get the nod. They might not play because, obviously, they're not that level anymore.
Yeah.
But they'll get, like, you know, the recognition, which is what I think. Like, you want to recognize, especially in baseball today, everything's about trying to get more recognition, growing more stars. This is where it starts. Like, am I crazy? The answer is yes. But am I crazy about this?
No. I just think it's a disservice to the players and the fans.
This took a really sad turn. Make me excited about something going on in Staten Island, even though none of these guys have been getting the recognition that they do deserve. Is there someone we should really look that could potentially play at the next level? And by next level, I mean, like, you know, long-term A, like playing up in Charleston, even maybe playing up in Trenton.
Well, we've had a lot of guys actually do like 1 or 2 game call-ups to Trenton just to get work in because they need an extra body. But I don't see anyone that's going to be regular up there in Trenton anytime soon. But, you know, there's a lot of great guys. You know, I just talked about Aaron McGarity, and McGarity is a guy that I think should be up at a higher level. So should Brooks Kriske and Garrett Mundell. They should all 3 of those guys should be at a higher level pitching against tougher competition. You know, they're definitely too old for this league. They're too good for this league. And I think they should be somewhere where they facing a lot tougher pitchers. A lot tougher batters, I mean. But if there's one guy that I think fans should really keep an eye on, and he's a guy that I think should make the back end of maybe a top 50 list for the organization, and that's Frank German. German was a 4th-round pick this year. He's 0-1 with a 1.59 ERA in 6 games with Staten Island. He has 20 strikeouts in 17 innings pitched, and he's demonstrating a fastball that's sitting 94 to 96 miles an hour and touching 97, 98 at times. So this guy's got a big-time fastball, and he's being worked into the starting rotation right now. He's a guy that might move pretty quickly next year, but I think this year, you know, he's pretty much going to be a big part of that rotation moving forward for the Staten Island Yankees.
Interesting. Moving to hitters, take a look at Brandon Lockridge. What's going on with that situation, Rob? I know you have an update.
Yes, unfortunately, Lockridge is pretty much done for the season. He suffered a injury to his hand that requires surgery, and he's actually traveling to get the surgery now. And expected recovery time is about 5 to 6 weeks, so it's pretty much shutting him down for the rest of the regular minor league season. And he should be well enough to for instructional league if they decide to send him there. Hopefully they do. You know, he's a Florida native, so it's not a far stretch for him. He did not look bad in his first few games with Staten Island. He suffered the injury very early on and was playing through it, so it kind of affected his stats a little bit. but he's a guy that I was very impressed with. He runs like one of the fastest guys I've seen out there in the outfield in a long time. And I mean, long time. I'm going back to the days of Brett Gardner, when Gardner Gardner patrolled that outfield. He was probably the fastest guy I saw in Staten Island. And then after him, Mason Williams, and I think Lockridge is up there with him in regards to speed.
Is that something the Yankees organization's been lacking?
Not necessarily. They've had a lot of good speed guys in the past. Jorge Mateo and all them.
Okay.
But it's something special when you see a guy that could easily control an entire outfield by himself.
Yeah, that is a special appearance, and if you've never been to a game in Staten Island, that's a big outfield too.
Yes, it is.
That's like a major league size ballpark, and if you do get a chance, it is a nice view, a nice place to catch a game, and definitely a lot of guys to be interested in here, Rob. But before we let you go, now that we have your update about Brandon Lockridge, actually, let's stay here for a while. What about Brandon Lockridge, besides his speed, excited you from what you've been able to see prior to his injury?
Well, I saw him put together a lot of good at-bats, and I'm a big believer if you can put together a good at-bat, you're very valuable to the team no matter the outcome. Because if you could put together a good at-bat, you could get a guy to throw all their pitches, and you can see them, especially at the top of the order. That gives everyone a good look at what the guy's throwing and makes it better overall. And also, you knock the starter out early, you get into that bullpen, you can knock him around a bit.
All right, well, before we let you go, Rob, I've joked about this on Twitter, and a lot of people got into it. I'm like, you really are historian when it comes to the Staten Island Yankees. You've really seen this team since its inception. I'm curious, to round out our segment here on the podcast, what is the funniest thing that's happened since you've seen the Staten Island Yankees? And I'm hesitant and nervous to hear what your answer might be.
Well, there's a lot of good stories. I have a lot of stories about this team. Some of them not suitable to air.
Some of them you might not be invited back to the ballpark.
Yeah, there is some. But
I feel like that's everywhere in every organization, though. Like, when you've been around for so long, you see how the sausage is made. Like, eventually you get some really funny things. I know I have a couple of stories that come to mind back from my days with the team, but I'm curious, like, what's the funniest thing as I shudder in fear about what's going to happen?
Well, one of the funniest moments I remember in team history, and this is going back maybe like 11, 12 years now.
Oh, wow, okay. Back in the day.
Back in the day.
Let me teach you something, young ones.
Well, in Staten Island how the press box and production booth are right behind the plate.
Yes.
And the umpire has to signal up when a new pitcher comes in.
Yes, if they remember.
There was this one series where the umpire would signal up to the suites on the left hand on the left-hand side of the ballpark, on the third base side, instead of signaling into the production and press box area.
So for those that don't know, when you take a look from the baseball diamond out, you're looking at the skyline of New York City. In the middle is where the press box, the production booth, all the worker bees are. To the left and to the right are all the suites where you can purchase very high-level tickets and watch Staten Island Yankees.
Yes.
So my confusion is, why did he think it was the suite on the left when, like, directly behind him is the press box and, like, 15 people looking at him?
I don't know. So it got to a point where it's the last game of the series, and every game he's waving to the suites.
So this is a whole series. This wasn't just one game.
Yeah, this was a whole series.
This was a whole series?
Yeah. Oh, just wait. So we decided that...
No one is like, hey, by the way, it's directly behind you.
No. In this game, when he comes, waves, and he turns around and waves, we're going to get everyone in the box to wave back. I'm meaning everyone in the production area, in the press box area, the visiting radio guy, the home radio guy.
The PA guy.
Everyone. So he comes in, starts turning, waving towards the suite. We're all waving back at him. He stops, looks, and then starts waving at us and realizes what he was doing.
Was it like, oh my God, the entire series I've been doing this?
I don't know. I was up in the booth at the time. I didn't see his reaction up close, but that was...
What was the reaction from the suites?
there was no one in the suites at the time, so there
why was he waving there if there's like no one chilling there?
I don't know.
Oh my God. These are the questions we need to find out. We got to find this guy, get him on the podcast.
He's probably not even in baseball anymore.
I would hope not. He couldn't find where the press box was. Can you imagine?
Hey, it's baseball. What can I say?
That strike zone was strict, I bet.
Yeah. I don't remember how many strikes on was.
You can't argue balls and strikes, but you can argue where the press box is.
Yeah. But like I said, there's a lot of good good stories I've had over the years from Staten Island. Some of them not fit for airing. Some I'm just saving for when I eventually write my book.
That no one will read.
That no one will
No one will read. The Life and Times in Minor League Baseball by Robert Pimpsner.
Or maybe I'll just turn it into a screenplay. Make a TV series out
Minor
of
League
it.
Baseball, the movie.
I'll do a TV series. It's enough for a good sitcom.
Maybe it's something we can produce going forward to the pinstripeprospects.com.
Maybe it's something we can sell.
A dramatic retelling of stories like these. Well, it's sick because we'd also be the actors, so I mean.
We'll pitch it to Netflix.
That'd be the drawback. Oh. Well, that'll do it, I guess. I'm going to ask for more funny stories every time we come back on. So, for those of you who like the Pinstriped Prospects podcast, continue to tune in because I'm going to rack Rob's brain for more stories like these because they're definitely interesting. I want to thank once again Robert Pimpsner, our beat writer for the Single A short season Staten Island Yankees, also our founder on PinstripeProspects.com. You can see all the great work that we do under his leadership right up there. Rob, thanks for coming down and hanging out with us here on the podcast on a Thursday night.
Anytime. I'm always happy to join you guys and talk baseball.
All right, thanks, Rob, once again for joining us on the podcast this week. The first of many, I hope, as I expect to get even more stories out of the man I like to call the Staten Island Yankees historian. But with that, that'll do it for this episode of the Pinstripe Prospects Podcast, episode number 65, presented, of course, by Velocity Wings. For awesome Petolillo, Robert Pimpsner, I'm Alex Zeller, thanking you so much for making us a part of your weekly programming, whether you watched, listened, or maybe both. On your favorite means of catching podcasts, be sure to tell your friends about us as we all look forward to the future, the bright future of the New York Yankees organization. Much love from all of us here at the Pinstripe Prospects, and I'll see you guys on Saturday with another edition of the Farm Report. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys then.